More now on our top story. Prime Minister Mark Carney says Canada is formally recognizing a Palestinian state, and the Conservatives have just released a statement reacting to it. Prime Minister Mark Carney is recognizing the Hamas state in another effort to distract from his record of rampant crime, costs, debt, immigration, and job loss. As he distracts abroad, Conservatives are working at home. Our priority is to put Canada first, restoring stronger take-home pay, safer streets, and secure borders within a self-reliant country. Prime Minister Mark Carney's priority is creating a Hamas state that will reward terrorists for raping civilians, taking hostages, oppressing Palestinians, and launching a war. Conservatives will always stand for Israel's right to exist and defend itself, living next to a future demilitarized, terror-free, democratic, and peaceful Palestinian state. Conservatives will focus on what is good for Canada because it is time to put our country first for a change. Now, for reaction to this move coming from the federal government today, we're joined live by Tom Mulcair, CTV News political commentator, former federal NDP leader. Good afternoon to you, Tom.
Good to be with you, Melissa.
You know, we had the signals from Carney over the summer that this was coming. We've got the UN General Assembly happening this week. But outside of that, I wonder if we could talk timing. What is your take? Why the federal government has decided to move forward with this at this moment?
I think that is going to be the key question. And the other one is institutional, which is, OK, why now? What has changed? And how does this come about now? In lockstep, by the way, with key allies like Great Britain and Australia, and we're told on Monday, France. But where was the parliamentary discussion around this? Where were our institutions? What role did the elected officials who are put there by all Canadians have to play in deciding the timing of this announcement and what it contains? And I think that it's such a complex issue. It's very easy to simply affirm that there will be this. The state of Palestine is something that Canada gets to recognize. But in that statement by Carney, he says it will be a state in which Hamas has no role. And where does Canada get to decide that? And how does that play out in the real world? So it's the same type of aspiration you read at the end of the Conservative statement, but the Conservatives are clearly signaling a very strong support for the state of Israel and putting the part of the blame that belongs on Hamas clearly with them. What's missing from Carney's is that sort of equilibrium, because he goes through a very long rap sheet against the state of Israel and then says, so we're going to have this Palestinian state and it won't have Hamas and it will have democratic elections. Well, again, those are things that to aspire to, but I'm not sure that the Canadian government is in any position to ensure that that's going to be put in place.
The pushback we're getting from Israel today to this move, they're saying that this rewards Hamas. Of course, we're seeing Carney trying to distance himself, saying Hamas can't be a part of all of this. But, what kind of response, reaction, role will Hamas have in all of this?
Well, that's the key thing. And there are still dozens of Israelis being held in tunnels as hostages. We're coming up on the second anniversary of a horrific terrorist attack by Hamas that killed over 1,200 Israelis and saw hundreds of them taken hostage. Many of those have died since then. So it's one thing to say that Canada has always had, as we have, it's always been part of our foreign policy for decades, that we want to see the creation of a Palestinian state. It's often referred to as a two-state solution, the state of Israel with guaranteed borders, living in security, side by side with a Palestinian state. But now the actual putting into force, making that a reality, that's the tricky part. As the old saying goes, the devil's in the details. So what are the details here? Well, it seems that, again, we just affirm a bunch of things, but it's not even clear if it's a condition precedent. So is the demilitarization and Hamas not playing a role? What happens if they do play a role? Do we withdraw our recognition of this eventual Palestinian state? There's so much that's wrapped up in the current Israeli government. We tend to fail to think long term. Long after Netanyahu is gone from the picture, and he has been such a provocative figure, there will be a state of Israel, and there will be a need to find peace and to work hard to get there. Right now, the sense is, listening to and reading the statements from Great Britain and from Canada, those are the ones that are the most easily available. Again, it's almost as if all you got to do is this, but it's a lot more complicated than that, Melissa, and I'm not sure that we're taking that into account.
What does this move mean for Canada's relationship with Israel, with the U.S.?
The U.S. is an important question. I think that Trump, as is often the case, was ham-fisted in his handling of this. When Canada first evoked the possibility, along with other allies, as is playing out today, of recognizing a Palestinian state, Mr. Trump went so far as to say that that would make it more difficult for Canada to get a trade deal, as if the United States could threaten, talk down to or to just try to force Canada's hand on an important foreign policy issue. We've usually been in lockstep with the Americans because we have a shared democratic tradition and we've got shared values. But in the Vietnam War, we didn't go. And in the war in Iraq, we said no. So there have been times when we've taken our own position. Well, you don't start threatening a country that's part of your most important defense initiatives and things like NATO and NORAD. You don't start threatening them the minute they take a position that's different from yours. I think that made Carney's hand a little bit stronger, frankly. I think that Trump, as is often the case, overplayed his hand and was trying to dictate a result here. I also think that Netanyahu made a strategic mistake because he got involved. He stuck his nose in the last Canadian election against Carney. And of course, I'm not saying that I have any information that played a role, but human beings are human beings. And I think that Netanyahu has bought himself a lot of trouble with his attitude.
Okay, that's definitely a story we're going to be following in the coming days, expected to be dominating headlines as that UN General Assembly gets underway. Tom Mulcair, thanks so much for being with us today.
All the best, Melissa. Take care.
Tom Mulcair, CTV News political commentator and former federal NDP leader, joining us live.